What's up, guys? We got part two of the video about when people flip out and just shoot up the place. So let's finish it up, guys.
Of 2022, carrying a gun he was legally not allowed to have. He was a convicted felon. He was out on bond from a previous arrest, and the conditions of that bond specifically said no weapons. He ordered a sandwich, decided there was too much mayonnaise on it, and when the argument with the employees behind the counter got out of hand, he pulled that gun out and started shooting.
I don't know if y'all ever had too much mayonnaise on y'all sandwich, but no, you can't just shoot up the place.
26-year-old Brittany Macon, who had only been working there for 3 weeks, was shot and killed.
Oh, that's so
Her co-worker and girlfriend, Jada Statham, was shot twice. And Jada's 5-year-old son, who was standing right there in that restaurant, watched all of it happen. The subway where this happened
sad,
is inside a Circle K gas station on Northside Drive, just south of Mercedes-Benz Stadium, right in the heart of downtown Atlanta. It's a busy strip, the kind of location that sees foot traffic at all hours. Brittany Macon started working there about 3 weeks before that night. Her family said she was the kind of person who just showed up for people.
Wow.
She and her co-worker, 24-year-old Jada Statham, were more than just colleagues. They were together, dating, living together, building a life. That night, Jada brought her 5-year-old son to work with her. He was there behind the counter with the two of them when Melvin Williams walked in. Williams was 36 years old and had been in and out of trouble his whole adult life. By that point, he'd been booked into the Fulton County Jail at least 8 different times. Back in 2013, he pleaded guilty to aggravated assault and first-degree burglary after breaking into his neighbor's apartment and getting into a physical fight with the same neighbor. He did a year in prison, 4 years on probation, and was eventually discharged under Georgia's First Offender Act in 2019, which effectively wiped his record clean. Then, in 2021, he was arrested again, this time for aggravated assault and cruelty to children in connection with an incident involving his child's mother. That case was still open when he walked into that subway. He was out on bond, and the conditions of that bond, written in a court order, said he was not allowed to have any weapons. That Sunday night, Williams ordered his food at the counter, and when he got his sandwich, he wasn't happy with it. The subway co-owner, Willie Glenn, later confirmed what the argument was about. Believe it or not, it was about too much mayonnaise on his sandwich, Glenn told reporters. What exactly was said between Williams and the employees during that argument isn't fully detailed in the public record. What the police and the co-owner both confirmed is that at some point, Williams decided words weren't enough. He pulled the handgun from wherever he had it on him and opened fire on the 2 women working behind that counter. Brittany Macon was shot and killed. Jada Statham was shot twice, but before the second bullet hit her, she managed to push her 5-year-old son underneath the counter to shield him from the gunfire. And
in this climate, bro, you don't know what's gonna push somebody over the edge. So, man, if you know, if you know anybody, bro, that seem like they struggling mentally, please, man, reach out to them and beg them to get some help, because right now, bro, it doesn't take much, and you don't know you don't know where it's coming from. This is crazy.
On-duty manager at the restaurant pulled out a gun and fired back at Williams, but missed. When the shooting stopped, Brittany Macon was down and not moving. Jada Statham was wounded, bleeding, but alive. And her little boy, 5 years old, was crouched under that counter in a subway restaurant where 2 people had just been shot in front of him. Williams fled the scene, but not for long. Police arrested him the very next day, June 27th. He was booked into the Fulton County Jail and denied bond at his first court appearance. A judge ruled he was too dangerous to release, and given what he'd just done while already out on bond for assault charges, it was hard to argue otherwise. Williams now faces multiple serious charges. He's facing murder, felony murder, 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, first-degree criminal damage to property, third-degree cruelty to children, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. That last charge matters even more, because Williams was not legally allowed to have a gun in the first place. In November of 2023, more than a year after the shooting, Williams tried to get bond again. A Fulton County judge denied it a second time. The court order said the same thing it said the first time. The defendant poses a significant risk of committing a felony pending trial. Williams has been sitting in the Fulton County Jail ever since, waiting for a trial date that still hasn't been set. Number 5. Michael Morgan. Michael Morgan was 20 years old when he got a FaceTime call from his mother that ended with a man dead. His mother, Lisa Fulmore, was at a McDonald's on Fulton Street in Brooklyn, complaining to the employees that her fries were cold. Morgan
Y'all leave in the comments, why do you think so many of our young black men are committing crimes like this, bro? Like, talk to me. Let me know. Do y'all think it's music, environment? Like, and do you think we can do anything about it? Y'all let me know how y'all feel about that.
was on the other end of that call, listening to the whole thing play out in real time. And when the argument got heated enough, he told his mother he was on his way. He showed up with his 18-year-old girlfriend, got into a fight with a 23-year-old employee named Matthew Webb, punched him to the ground on the sidewalk outside, and then pulled out a gun and shot him in the neck. Matthew Webb did not survive. He died 4 days later. And the whole thing started because somebody's fries weren't hot enough. Lisa Fulmore, 40 years old, was a customer there that evening. She ordered food, got her fries, and immediately complained that they were cold. She went to the counter, spoke with employees there, including 23-year-old Matthew Webb, and asked to see a manager. According to reports, when she kept pressing the issue, some of the workers laughed at her complaint. That was when the situation began to change. What turned this from a normal customer complaint into something far more serious was the phone in Lisa Fulmore's hand. She was on FaceTime with her son, Michael Morgan, the entire time, meaning he was hearing the argument as it happened. He could hear everything, his mother complaining, the back and forth with the workers, the laughter. As the argument continued, Michael Morgan decided he had heard enough. According to his mother, he said something she later repeated to police. He gotta do what he gotta do. Then he hung up the call and started heading for the restaurant. Morgan was 20 years old and had already been arrested 13 times. Previous charges included assault, grand larceny, and theft of service. He wasn't a stranger to confrontation. And on this particular evening, he didn't go to that McDonald's alone. He brought his 18-year-old girlfriend, Camelia Dunlap, with him. What Dunlap had on her when they arrived would become a central part of this case. She was carrying a gun. A gun that, according to the prosecutor, Morgan had obtained from a neighbor. By the time Morgan got to that restaurant, the argument that had started between his mother and the employees was still going. Morgan got into an argument with Matthew Webb, and the confrontation soon moved outside onto the sidewalk. That's where the surveillance cameras caught what happened next. Morgan threw a punch that knocked Webb straight to the ground, and when Webb tried to get back up, Morgan reached for the gun and fired. One shot to the neck. Webb went down and didn't get up. Bystanders on the street rushed over. One man cradled Webb's head while they waited for an ambulance. Another took off his own shirt and pressed it against the wound to try to slow the bleeding. Paramedics rushed Webb to Brookdale University Hospital in Brooklyn, where doctors assessed his condition and delivered the worst possible news. He had been declared brain dead. His family was told he was on life support and that they would have to make a decision. Morgan didn't stick around after the shooting. He took off from the scene on foot, and surveillance footage captured him trying to get rid of his clothes as he went. It didn't work. Police arrested him that same night, inside his own home. Camelia Dunlap was arrested there alongside him. When Morgan appeared before a judge at his arraignment on August 4th, Assistant District Attorney Luis Paternina told the court that murder charges were coming because Webb was still on life support and Webb's family was in the impossible position of deciding when to let him go. Morgan was held without bail. On the morning of August 5th, the NYPD confirmed what everyone had feared. Matthew Webb had died. The charges against Morgan were upgraded to murder. But then came a detail that nobody outside the investigation saw coming. While detectives were questioning Morgan about the McDonald's shooting, he started talking about something else. He admitted to another killing, a murder that had gone unsolved for nearly 2 years. In October of 2020, a 28-year-old man named Kevin Holloman had been shot dead on Herkimer Street in Bedford-Stuyvesant, right in the same neighborhood, 6 blocks from the McDonald's where Morgan had just shot Matthew Webb. Holloman wasn't even the intended target. He'd been hanging out with his cousin when Morgan came out of an apartment and opened fire. The cousin was the one Morgan was actually after, following a dispute between them 2 days earlier. Holloman just happened to be standing there. Police had long suspected Morgan in the Holloman killing, but had never been able to make the case. Then Morgan walked into a questioning room over cold fries and handed it to them himself. Morgan was charged in both cases: the Holloman murder, the Webb murder, criminal possession of a weapon in connection with both. Camelia Dunlap was charged separately under the same Kings County indictment for handing Morgan the gun and running off with it after the shooting. In December of 2023, a Kings County judge ruled on how the two defendants would be tried. Rather than splitting the cases into entirely separate trials, the judge ordered simultaneous separate juries, one for Morgan, one for Dunlap, to hear the evidence together in the same courtroom. As of now, that trial has not yet concluded. Michael Morgan remains in custody without bail, waiting for a verdict that will determine whether he spends the rest of his life in prison. Number 6. Antoine Kendrick. On the afternoon of July 26th, 2000.
I'm not trying to. Do you notice how many black men this is? This is crazy, bro. I mean, is this from dads not being around? Like, what, dude? This is crazy, bro. Like, this is like, just on this video alone, this is 3 in a row of people guys just flipping out, not being able to handle their emotions and acting on them, just impulsively. And they just happen to have a gun. And in one instance where the dude already knocked the guy out, he still shot him. Bro, this is nuts.
2022, a 67-year-old man walked into a Wendy's in Prescott Valley, Arizona, to complain about his food. He was standing at the counter, sipping his Frosty, waiting for someone to address it. 35-year-old employee, Antoine Kendrick, came out from behind the register, walked up beside him, and punched him in the side of the head. The blow knocked the man to the ground, and his head struck the pavement. He never regained consciousness after the fall. 10 days later, he was dead. Antoine Kendrick was working the service counter that afternoon. Around 20 minutes to 5, a 67-year-old resident of nearby Dewey came in and ordered his food. He got his items, but something about the order wasn't right. He went back to the counter to complain. What exactly he said and what exactly was wrong was never clearly captured. What police confirmed is that the man complained about his food order, and that complaint was directed at the employees working the counter. What the camera did capture was what happened next. The footage shows Kendrick handing the customer 3 cups at the counter. The customer appears to be pointing at something, making his complaint. At some point, the interaction winds down enough that the man steps back slightly and starts tasting one of the cups, sipping his Frosty. And that's when Kendrick walks out from behind the register. He comes up beside the man, from the side, where the customer isn't looking, and throws a punch directly at the side of his head. The customer dropped immediately. His head struck the floor on the way down, making the injuries even worse. He was knocked unconscious and never got back up. Officers from the Prescott Valley Police Department and the Central Arizona Fire and Medical Authority responded to the restaurant. When they arrived, the 67-year-old man was on the floor, unresponsive. Given how serious his condition was, the decision was made to airlift him to a hospital in the Phoenix area. He was flown out that same afternoon and admitted in critical condition. Kendrick was arrested the same day. Initially, the charge was aggravated assault, because at that point the victim was still alive. Kendrick was booked into custody, and the case sat in that holding pattern for the next 10 days. On August 5th, 2022, the 67-year-old man died from his injuries, 10 days after a single punch at a fast food counter. On August 15th, the Prescott Valley Police Department updated its press release with the news. The charge against Kendrick was upgraded to second-degree murder, and he remained in custody. The victim's name was never released publicly. Prescott Valley Police cited privacy reasons, and none of the family gave public statements on the record. All that was ever confirmed was that he was 67 years old and lived in Dewey, Arizona. He went to a Wendy's to sort out a problem with his lunch and never came home. Kendrick initially pleaded not guilty. The case moved through Yavapai County Superior Court over the following year and a half. Then, in February of 2024, he changed his plea. He pleaded guilty, and on April 1st, 2024, he stood before Judge Krista Carmen in Yavapai County Superior Court and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. He had already served 615 days by the time he was sentenced,
Oh,
and that was credited against the 15 years. But the rest of it he has to serve in full. Number 7. Kelvis Rodriguez Tormes. Kelvis Rodriguez Tormes was 37 years old, a convicted felon, legally barred from owning a gun, and on the night of August 1st, 2020, he drove to a Burger King in Orlando because his girlfriend made a phone call. That girlfriend was Ashley Mason. She'd been sitting in the drive-thru line, got frustrated with how long the wait was, got out of her car, banged on the window, and told the employees her man was coming. The restaurant refunded her $40 and asked her to leave. She left, called Rodriguez Tormes, and came back. He arrived in a white work truck, walked up to 22-year-old Desmond Joshua, who'd been on the job exactly 2 days, and put him in a headlock. When a bystander broke it up, Rodriguez Tormes went back to his truck, took the gun Mason handed him, and shot Joshua once in the chest.
oh my
Ashley Mason was
goodness.
sitting in that drive-thru line with her 13-year-old daughter when the wait got to be too much for her. She got out of her car at the drive-thru window and started making a scene, banging on the glass and yelling at the employees. Her daughter threw a drink at the window. Mason told the workers that her man was going to come down there and deal with this.
Wow.
One of the employees, 22-year-old Desmond Joshua, who had only been working there for 2 days, refunded Mason $40 and asked her to leave. Mason left, but she didn't go home. Surveillance footage from a nearby restaurant later showed Mason sitting in its parking lot after she drove away from the Burger King. She stayed there for about 5 minutes. Then she left for 2 minutes and came back, this time not alone. Following behind her in a white work truck was Kelvis Rodriguez Tormes, her boyfriend. He was 37 years old and a convicted felon, which meant he had no legal right to be anywhere near a firearm. He had one anyway. Rodriguez Tormes got out of that truck and went straight to Desmond Joshua. He didn't come to talk. He challenged Joshua to a fight right there in the parking lot, then grabbed him and put him in a headlock, choking him. A bystander stepped in and managed to pull them apart. That should have been the end of it,
Yeah, right.
but it wasn't. Rodriguez Tormes walked back to his truck. He got in, lowered the window, and looked at Desmond Joshua standing in that parking lot. And he said 4 words that witnesses would later repeat to investigators word for word. "You got 2 seconds." Then he pulled the trigger. 1 shot, straight to the chest.
Oh,
Joshua
man.
went down in the parking lot and didn't get up. What happened with the gun in the seconds before that shot is one of the most damning parts of this whole case. While Rodriguez, Tormes, and Joshua had been fighting, Mason had pulled out a handgun and pointed it in the direction of the 2 men. When the bystander broke up the fight and Rodriguez Tormes walked back to the truck, he asked Mason for it. "Give me the fire," he said, and she handed it over. After the shot, both of them drove off. Rodriguez Tormes in the white work truck, Mason in her black sedan. Orange County Sheriff's deputies arrived to find Desmond Joshua.
What's crazy, this dude's second day on the job. Like, could you imagine your kid going to work and then all of a sudden you get a phone call saying, man, look, it's like I already been through something similar when it comes to that stuff, but I could not imagine these circumstances right here, bro. This is sad, bro.
On his back in the parking lot with a single gunshot wound to the chest. He was taken to a hospital. He didn't survive. Rodriguez Tormes was arrested early the next morning, August 2nd. When investigators sat down with him, he told them what he'd done with the gun. He said he took it apart, dismantled it, and put it somewhere that couldn't be found. He was right. The gun was never recovered, but that admission became its own charge. Destruction of evidence. Added to first-degree murder with a firearm and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, Rodriguez Tormes was held without bond. 3 days after the shooting, on August 5th, Ashley Mason was arrested too. The surveillance footage from the nearby restaurant had already disproved the story she'd told investigators, that she'd left the Burger King and gone straight home. She was charged with principal to first-degree murder and aggravated assault with a firearm. She was also held without bond. When she was interviewed by detectives after her arrest, Mason described what happened when Rodriguez Tormes came home that night. She said he walked in and told her, "I messed up." The case moved through the Orange County courts for the next 3 years. When it finally reached trial in November of 2023, The jury was asked to weigh everything that happened that night. Rodriguez Tormes had gone in facing first-degree murder. In the end, jurors found him guilty of manslaughter, along with tampering with physical evidence and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. The first-degree murder charge did not stick, but a manslaughter conviction in Florida still carries serious weight. On a December day in 2023, Kelvis Rodriguez Tormes stood before a judge in Orange County and was sentenced to 50 years in prison. He was 41 years old. He'll be in his 90s before he's eligible for release, if he ever is. Ashley Mason's case is still unresolved. As of the last confirmed court date, she was facing trial on 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Desmond Johnson.
It's like these people go to jail, bro, like, and spend years in prison and get out. And dude, if I spent that much time in prison, there is no way I'm going near a gun, a crazy girl, and I'm definitely not mixing the two. Like, dude, I can't. You do probably about like a 5-year stint, and then you get out for what, 2-3 years, and what, you just get comfortable or something? Or, like, how does that work, bro? But I know people that have gone to prison, have gotten out, got started a business, and they just like never again, and they just gone. But then there's some other folks that you like, bro. They didn't sit long enough. They didn't marinate long enough, and they just need to. But when you hurt somebody else and take somebody's life, bro, like, that has to make the judge feel like, bro, like, that's why I couldn't have no job like that. I couldn't have a job where my decisions determine so much, because anybody would feel somewhat responsible if you give a person a certain sentence when they could have got another, like, longer, and they get out and they do something crazy and kill somebody or hurt something. Like, nah, bro, I'm good on that. It take a certain, and I see why those people be so harsh too. Like, you see what? Come on now, you see what's going on.
Joshua had been on that job for only 2 days. He refunded a customer $40 and asked her to leave. That was the decision that cost him his life. Number 8, Rico McClain. In August of 2019, Popeyes released a new chicken sandwich, and people lost their minds over it. Customers were driving across town, waiting an hour in line, posting about it online, and within days, it was completely sold out at locations everywhere. Popeyes hadn't planned for that kind of demand, and they couldn't keep up, so they pulled it from the menu and told everyone it was coming back. They just didn't say when. When November came and the sandwich was finally re-released, the lines came back with it, longer this time. People had been waiting months.
What are we doing?
Rico McClain was one of those people. On the evening of November 4th, 2019, he drove to the Popeyes on Livingston Road in Oxon Hill, Maryland, with his wife and his 2 children. They were just a family going out to get a sandwich that the whole country had been talking about. They got in line and they waited. A 28-year-old man named Kevin Tyrell Davis walked into that Popeyes and cut straight to the front. He walked past the people who had been standing there waiting, including Rico McClain, who was there with his family, and moved ahead of them, as if the line didn't apply to him.
Come on, buddy. It's just chicken we're talking about here. Come on, buddy. This is crazy, bro.
McClain said something,
This isn't real.
and the 2 of them got into a verbal argument right there inside the restaurant. And then, for reasons that the public record doesn't fully explain, they both walked outside. What happened in that parking lot took 15 seconds. 15 seconds from the moment they stepped outside to the moment Kevin Davis was on the ground. McClain stabbed him once in the upper body, and then he ran.
Goodness, man.
Davis was
Come
found
on,
in the
bro.
parking lot when officers arrived. He had suffered a single stab wound. He was rushed to a nearby hospital, but about an hour after being stabbed in
condolences
an
to the
argument
family.
over cutting the line,
All
Kevin
these
Tyrell
victims, bro.
Davis died from his injuries.
These look like good
Police were clear
kids,
about
too.
one thing from the start. They did not believe McClain acted in self-defense. Davis had cut the line, words were exchanged, and then McClain made a choice to take it somewhere it never needed to go. The restaurant's surveillance cameras had captured everything, and investigators used that footage to identify McClain within days. And on November 14th, 10 days after the stabbing,
Come on, bro.
detectives found Rico McLean hiding at a house on Nova Avenue in Capitol Heights, Maryland. He was taken into custody without incident. A grand jury indicted McLean in December of 2019 on charges of common-law murder and carrying a dangerous weapon with intent to injure. He sat in custody while the case worked its way through Prince George's County Circuit Court. His defense attorney at the time suggested McLean had viable defenses, but didn't elaborate publicly on what those were. It took until April of 2022, nearly 2.5 years after the stabbing, for the case to go to trial. When it did, the jury came back with a verdict of second-degree murder. Sentencing came in September of 2022.
Tommy got
The prosecution had asked for 35 years.
Shit.
What McLean got was 22, with no portion of it suspended. He'll be eligible for parole after serving 11 years, and with time already served, he could potentially be out in less than 10.
Oh my
At the
goodness.
sentencing hearing, something happened that was worth noting. Rico McLean stood up and apologized to Kevin Davis's family.
Okay, show some
And then
remorse.
Davis's mother did something that nobody in that courtroom could have predicted. She looked at the man who had killed her son and told him she was going to pray for him every day
Ooh.
and hoped he would be rehabilitated.
That's tough.
Kevin Tyrell Davis came to a Popeyes on a Monday evening to get a chicken sandwich. He cut a line, which was the wrong thing to do, and it cost him everything. Rico McLean is going to spend at least the next decade in prison because he decided 15 seconds in a parking lot was the right response to that. Number 9. Floorwork Carlin Lozano. Jalen Madden was 19 years old and working the overnight shift at a Waffle House in Laurinburg, North Carolina, when a customer started getting impatient about his order. She was the cook that night. Her boyfriend, 18-year-old Burley Dawson Locklear, was working right there alongside her. The customer, 38-year-old floorwork Carlin Lozano, had complained that his food was taking too long. He reportedly said it should not take that long to cook bacon. Jalen kept working and got the order out. Lozano took the food, walked toward the parking lot, then turned back and fired 2 shots into the building.
What in the world?
Burley was hit and died at the hospital that night. This happened in the early hours of September 13th, 2024, just after midnight on a Friday. Burley Dawson Locklear III was 18 years old. He'd gone by Dawson his whole life and by Pootie and Stump to the people closest to him. He just
Like, do these people think like they not gonna get caught or something? Or, bro, I know I'm just a civilian, just a guy watching videos and doing reactions, but surely you have to know in real life these folks gonna hide you, bro. Like, you.
graduated from Hope County High School earlier that year and only recently turned 18. His birthday was July 18th, 2024. His girlfriend Jalen worked at the same Waffle House. That night, she was on the grill and Burley was out front. Around 12:30 in the morning, a group of customers came in, including a man Jalen noticed right away seemed impatient. That man was floorwork Carlin Lozano. He was 38 years old and went by the nickname Chulo. He also went by Carlos. He was known to move between Laurinburg, Dillon in South Carolina, and the state of Florida.
Old to be doing
He
this
walked
type
into that
stuff,
Waffle
bro.
House and placed an order, and then he waited. The wait was the problem. Jalen had told the customers up front that she needed 15 to 20 minutes because she had a full line of orders to get through. But Lozano didn't want to wait 15 minutes. He came back to the window asking why his food was taking so long. He said it didn't take that long to cook bacon. And from there, according to police, things escalated. He got more agitated, more verbally abusive toward the staff, the kind of scene that fast food workers deal with far too often.
Yeah.
Eventually, the food came out. Lozano got what he came for, and then he did something that nobody in that building could have anticipated. He walked toward the parking lot, toward his Chevrolet, and then he stopped. He turned back around to face the building, and he fired 2 shots, straight at the Waffle House. One of those bullets went through and struck Burley Dawson Locklear inside.
Man.
Laurinburg police officers arrived at 12:42 that morning, about 12 minutes after the first reports came in. When they got there, they found Burley inside the restaurant with a gunshot wound.
Oh,
He was transported to Scotland Memorial Hospital, just a few miles away. He didn't survive. Burley Dawson Locklear III died at that hospital on September 13th, 2024. Lozano, meanwhile, was already gone. He'd fled from the parking lot on foot, heading along Scotland Crossing Drive toward West Boulevard, and disappeared into the night. The next morning, Laurinburg police issued an arrest warrant for floorwork Carlin Lozano, charging him with first-degree murder. They put out his description, his aliases, and a warning: armed and dangerous. They also noted he was known to move between North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida, which told investigators they might be looking for a man who had already put serious distance between himself and Laurinburg. They were right. Lozano was gone for 4 months. Then, in January of 2025, 4 months after the shooting, authorities located floorwork Carlin Lozano in Portsmouth, Virginia. He'd made it that far. Officers took him into custody there, and the process of bringing him back to North Carolina began. In April of 2025, Lozano was extradited back to Laurinburg and booked into the Scotland County Detention Center without bond. He was formally indicted on first-degree murder charges shortly after. But there was more, because it turned out first-degree murder wasn't the only charge Lozano was facing. Prosecutors also charged him with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, meaning Lozano had a prior felony conviction and was legally barred from touching a gun, let alone using one. And they charged him with discharging a firearm into an occupied building, because that's exactly what he had done. And then, in December of 2025, the Scotland County District Attorney Jamie Adams made a decision that elevated this case to an entirely different level. She filed notice that the state of North Carolina would be seeking the death penalty against floorwork Carlin Lozano. Court documents said prosecutors believed they could win a conviction and that the case included factors that made it eligible for the death penalty under North Carolina law. Because of that, Lozano was given a second lawyer, which is required in death penalty cases. As of now, no trial date has been set. The state of North Carolina wants Lozano to pay for what he did with his life. Meanwhile, the Locklear family is waiting for the day he is brought into court, where they hope to finally see him punished for what he did to Dawson. Number 10. Monica Williams. Monica Williams had already driven away from that Church's Chicken on Park Avenue in Memphis. The argument at the drive-thru window was over. She had her friend and her friend's 10-year-old son in the car, and she drove them home. She told her friend she was going to go get some chips to go with their dinner. And then she turned around, drove back to that Church's Chicken parking lot, and she waited. 48-year-old Anitra West, who had just been at that drive-thru window arguing with her, stepped outside to get some air, and Monica Williams shot her once in the head. The whole thing started because of a food order. Anitra West had been working there for about a year. She was 48 years old, a Memphis mother, a woman her ex-husband described as someone who spoke life into every person she came across. Monica Williams was 45 years old and working at FedEx at the time. On the evening of July 8th, she was out with a friend, a woman who had her 10-year-old son with her, and they decided to go to the Church's Chicken on Park Avenue because they had coupons. That detail says everything about how ordinary this night was supposed to be. At the drive-thru intercom, something went wrong. According to the arrest affidavit, Williams told the employee they had 2 orders, but investigators say the dispute quickly turned into an argument about paying.
Why are they taking pictures of folks like that?
Things got tense enough at the intercom that Williams and her friend decided to skip the food entirely. Williams pulled up to the window anyway, told the employee they didn't want the order anymore, and that's when the arguing kicked back up. The employee at that window was Anitra West. The 2 women went back and forth, nothing physical, but it got loud. And at some point during that argument, Monica Williams said something that a witness, West's friend, who was on the phone with her at the time, heard clearly through the phone. She told Anitra West, "I will kill you." Williams then drove away from that window. She dropped her friend and the child off at home, told her friend she was going to go pick up some chips, and left. Her friend didn't think anything of it. Williams had been seeing someone and often went out in the evenings. When Williams came back later that night, somewhere between 11 and midnight, she packed an overnight bag and left without her car. Her friend still didn't think much of it. She went to sleep. Back at the Church's Chicken, just before 9:16 that Monday night, Anitra West stepped outside to get some air. She was on the phone with her friend, the same friend who had heard the whole confrontation through the call. And while she was standing in that parking lot, She saw something that made her stop. She told her friend what she was seeing. "Girl," she said, "this same girl with the purple hair I just got into it with just pulled back up in the parking lot."
Oh,
A few seconds later, her friend heard her yell something. "Go to jail then," and then a single gunshot, and then nothing. The employees inside heard their coworker's name being called out. Then they went outside and found Anitra West bleeding from a gunshot wound to the head in the parking lot.
Oh my.
Memphis police
goodness.
officers arrived at 9:16 that evening. Anitra West was rushed to Regional 1, where she was pronounced dead at 9:41 p.m. The next morning, Memphis police released surveillance photos on their Facebook page, images from the restaurant's cameras that had captured the entire incident. The woman in those photos had purple hair. She was driving a teal compact SUV, later confirmed to be a Mazda CX-9. Within hours, people in the community started recognizing her. A woman called police and identified the person in the photos as her friend Monica Williams, and said the vehicle was parked right outside her house. Police found the car and had it towed, but Williams was gone. 3 days after the shooting, on July 11th, Memphis police issued an arrest warrant for Monica Williams, charging her with first-degree murder. Back in 2009, she had been convicted of aggravated assault for stabbing a pregnant woman and assaulting her with a tree branch. She did 3 years for that, which meant that when she shot Anitra West, she was not only facing a murder charge, she was carrying a firearm she had no legal right to have. That added a second charge on top of everything else: convicted felon in possession of a firearm. Williams was out there for a week, and then, on July 15th, 7 days after the shooting, she turned herself in. She walked into custody and was booked into the Shelby County Jail with no bond. FedEx confirmed she had been fired from her job the moment her identity became public. The Shelby County District Attorney, Steve Mulroy, said his office would work hard to keep her behind bars pending trial and make sure she was punished appropriately for what she had done. On August 22nd, 2024, a Shelby County grand jury formally indicted Monica Williams on first-degree murder and the firearm charge. Her defense attorney began exploring whether to file a motion to dismiss, noting that while his client was captured on video, he believed there were things the affidavit didn't cover that he could work with. As of now, no trial date has been set. Williams remains in the Shelby County Jail without bond. Anitra West's 12-year-old daughter Zoe had a message for Monica Williams. She said she hoped she would rot in hell. She said she hoped she would never see her own kids again. Monica Williams is 45 years old and waiting for a trial date. These cases remind us that life can turn on the smallest things: a missing item, a long wait, a sandwich that came out wrong. None of the people behind those counters that day knew it would be their last shift, and none of the families left behind ever imagined that a regular Tuesday night food run would be the last time they saw someone they loved.
Guys, thanks for watching with me. Please subscribe, leave something in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about just, man. Well, I could imagine what you think about it, but let me know what you feel. But anyhow, thanks for chilling with me, bro. See y'all on the next one.